Well, I mean, the barber shop that you worked in must be extremely grateful for the custom that you brought through the door.
Well, it was my own salon.
Oh, was
so,
it really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was. Yes, I was. But that became quite ridiculous at a point because many people who saw the TV programmes would come to the salon looking for readings, and of course that title that the BBC dubbed me, the psychic barber, didn't do me a lot of favours. It meant people would think I would cut their hair and do a reading, which I never ever did in my life once in 23 years of cutting hair once. But
yeah. Okay. So just sort of going back, I was reading here that it says that you were 24 when you suddenly awakened to the gifts that you had, basically. And that was one of your friend's brother turned up at the site.
Died,
yeah. I mean, before that, did you have nothing before that? Or was it just a switch and that was it?
No, definitely I did. When I was a kid, I had many, many episodes as a young child. Funnily enough, in my teenage years, it kind of went away. But looking back over that, I think teenagers are kind of ruled by another god anyway. It's kind of weird to say. But no, also my childhood, and then nothing in my teenage years, and then I suppose in my early 20s, just before that happened with Brian, there was a couple of things starting to just turn up. So, no, I had some kind of, I don't know, special episodes when I was young and growing up. So
I mean, how did that make you feel then when that suddenly happened to you? Was it something that you could easily accept into your own awareness, if you like, or was it kind of a bit of a shock?
No, it was a shock. It was a shock in one sense, but in another sense, the way that happened when Christine's brother appeared, my friend had just lost her brother who was her life because her mother had already died. And, I mean, we were so linked. We went to school together, we worked together in the hairdressers, we lived so close to one another. And so, I mean, I wasn't really concerned much about me or any psychic things happening. I was actually really at that time looking after my friend a lot. And things were happening. And she was the one that asked me to take her to a medium, which I thought was a dangerous thing. I had no idea what that was.
Right.
And I was like, what do you mean there's actual places where these people practice? I thought it was some kind of occult thing she wanted to go to. But when I realised there was churches.
Yeah.
And there actually people sang hymns and did prayers and all that, and I thought, okay. So when I took her there, and the first message that came through was the medium saying to Christine, oh my God, she says, you've lost someone, but the guy sitting next to you is a medium and he's seen him. And she just looked at me and she's like, this woman's crazy. And I did too. I'm thinking, okay, I did see him, but I can't tell her. Because I didn't want to add to her grief. I mean, I was trying to do the common sense thing of, like, okay, just let's try and get her through the grief, you know, without adding things to it. So it was a kind of crazy first night in the spiritualist church. And after that, I kind of did go back and have a look at it and examined it quite thoroughly and thought, actually, these people, some of them are really pretty normal. And some of them weren't. But that's okay.
Yeah.
Every organisation has its fringe.
Well, it seems to be more and more people sort of waking up and having these sorts of abilities, aren't they? I mean,
yes,
there's different words being banded around in, you know, sort of the spiritual or New Age movement, whether you've got like awakening, ascension, or just a shift in consciousness. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I do think it is just a sign of the times, and that people are more cerebral anyway. Because I mean, if you look at the workforce in most countries, right, in most advanced countries, everything is to do with the mind. Very little is to do with the body. So people, by their nature, we are evolving into our minds. And that is where a lot of this stuff happens, very subliminal stuff that would once have been dreamt of is now becoming real. So it's almost very etheric the way people think. And children even more so. Children who would run about for hours and play in a street or a backyard are now stuck in front of things where their head is the control and making them think. So everything is rising a level. The heavy physical manual thing is starting to go and get less and less and less. So we are actually becoming more thinking beings than physically active beings. So I think it's just the way things should be. You know, and people make a big deal of something when they find it kind of out the blue. It's like anybody who finds religion for the first time or angels or anything that inspires, they think they're the only people in the world to know it. And they start to try and convince everybody. And it gets quite annoying. You're like, shut up. We know about this. Be quiet. So they become like spiritual children, if you like, even adults. And very often, that's the way I look at it, is that a lot of these people are just like a child that's found something. Wow, that's my niche. Oh my God, I've found this. there's a truth here that I never realised. So that is quite amazing, and I love when it happens. I mean, I think people like myself, and there's a lot of mediums out there, and not just mediums, different healers and people with different kind of backgrounds and very varied, who are waiting just to teach these people who are becoming awake. And I think that's why maybe my generation, I mean, I'm now nearly 50, and a lot of the mediums that I developed with, most of them are on TV or doing something like that. We're all quite good friends, and we all notice that when we travel and do seminars and things, that it's a similar type of audience that's travelling everywhere with us, all over the world.
Yeah.
People who are waking up, and that's a good thing. That is a really, really good thing.
Yeah, it's really, really good, because I mean, do you see the marriage of sort of spirituality and science coming together more? I mean, I certainly feel it is. I mean, have you seen this?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it should be to me. Like, you know, if religion was that kind of father figure of spirituality in the olden days and dark ages and coming right through into the Victorian times, well, now science is, from the turn of the last century, I would say. Science and all that stuff is actually taking over. And that's why I'm quite happy to work with scientists, quite happy to have a go at it. When it's serious scientists, I don't just mean some little geezer who's a biologist who says, let me put you behind the screen and see if you can guess this. I mean, when there's proper protocol and there's a reason for it, and it'll be written up for science papers, then yes, I'm happy to take part in anything. Because I do believe that if people like me do that, then it's going to give people a much better indication as to how it works.
Yeah.
You know, and I think science by its nature is about expanding consciousness, and I would say that spirituality is about expanding consciousness. At some point they've got to meet, you know, and I think they can only meet when you take out the governing bodies like societies that say you're not allowed this, not allowed that, or religious bodies that say you're not allowed that or this, when it actually becomes that it's okay that you can actually do something out with the orthodoxy. Then science, I think, it's getting a much better voice as it is anyway, and that's good.
There seems to be signs within some other in Orthodox religion, especially the Catholic one recently.
Yeah.
They seem to be coming out saying that they believe in, you know, life elsewhere and stuff like that. So they're sort of all pushing in the right direction, you know, probably kicking and screaming.
We see they probably always did though. And it just depends. I mean, the crazy thing about religion is that whoever is at the top of it, whichever man or woman who would be at the top of any particular religion, would have the say on things. So they're kind of spokespeople for the higher order, and that's just not good. So the good thing is I think religious leaders now have to talk and think, Chris, we better get in line with this. If we don't, we're going to lose out.
I guess, yeah.
So, but the real spirituality will happen regardless of what religions and that say. It really will. It's more powerful than any man or any man-made organisation will ever be. So.
Sure. So, have you worked with Gary Schwartz? Have you heard of Gary Schwartz?
I know who Gary is, but no, I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah. But I know who he is. He did a lot of tests in the US. The people I worked with here, they did tests long before Gary, and the protocol we had was much tighter because, sadly, a lot of the tests Gary did, he got criticised a lot for. Well, he never followed the correct protocol. Things like the mediums would be allowed to walk about a corridor somewhere, and stuff like that, even though there was nothing that they cheated in. But the skeptic can say if they weren't controlled properly, then da-da-da-da. So all these things you have to know. It's amazing what people will accuse you of, honestly. The better you get at it, the more exact you are, people will say, oh, well, he just cheated. You know?
Yeah.
Quite ridiculous. But as I say, somebody like Gary is a lovely man, and I believe in somebody who's so interested in trying to prove that there is something much more kind of otherly, a sense of something strange is out there, and we need to find out what that is.
I'm sure we'll get there. There's a lady on last week, Hazel Courtney, and she's been working with a lot of these scientists and stuff. And she made a quote on the last show that whether it's now or very soon, it'd be down to the skeptics to prove there isn't an afterlife. You know, the way things are sort of going. So it's really encouraging.
To be fair, it's always been that. It's always been that way. They've never had that answer. To me, skepticism is a safe place to be, because you neither need to say yes or no to anything. You're asking for proof constantly for things when you're sceptical. And they're the ones that are frightened, really. You know, somebody once said, I think it was Marianne Williamson, that wrote, our deepest fear is not that we're insignificant. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Now, anybody who is sceptical is really, really attacking themselves to take the responsibility for their own life. So there's something bigger